Hey, what's up, guys? Listen, so this guy is going to get tested very soon. So this is the M17, the SIG M17. And if you're not aware, there's some controversy with the P320s. There are claims out there that the P320 can fire without pulling the trigger. I don't know if those claims are entirely true, and I don't know if those claims are entirely false. There's definitely some very damning videos out there, but honestly, in any of those videos, I didn't see one pistol that showed that it was actually a P320. Just saying, every video that I saw, a round go off or something of that nature, and then the video kind of cuts away. It didn't show the actual pistol. Now, I'm not saying their claims are false. I'm just, me personally, I haven't seen, a gun and a pistol, and I haven't seen a P320 in a holster, then it fire, and then somebody pull the P320 out, and then that's exactly what it was. So, the old saying, believe nothing of what you hear and only half of what you see. And in today's day and age, it's probably only believe a quarter of or less of what you see. So, I'm not a SIG fanboy. In fact, I wanted Glock to win the competition between, all the other companies that put their name in the hat to become the service pistol. A little bit of history there. I grew up with the 92 series Beretta in the Army. I hate that pistol with a passion. I hate it so much. And then in special operations units, we had a few Glocks, at least around 2009-ish. During that time, at least on my teams, you had to be the top shots to get the two Glocks we had for the 12-man ODA. And always it was me and the other Bravo on the team. That's just the way it was. That's the way we worked it. And then we ended up getting more Glocks because people liked the Glock over the 92 series Beretta, and rightfully so. And then the competition that the U.S. Army was like, hey, we want to replace our service pistol. The contract is going to end for the 92 series Beretta as the service pistol. So then Glock was like, yeah, I'm going to put the Glock 19 in there, and the Glock 17, or whatever variants they put in there. And then SIG's like, we're going to put our stuff in there too. Now, there are certain requirements that have to be met to be the Army service pistol. One of the criteria was probably an external safety. Now, I want to explain something to you. Every single Glock is a double action striker fired pistol, which means right now, as the slide sits forward, there's nothing under spring tension. Zero things are under spring tension right now. It only happens when I start pulling the trigger. When I start pulling the trigger, the striker then starts coming back, and now there's some tension on the spring. At a certain point, the striker is released on the inside by the sear, okay? Released from the sear, by the sear, however you want to call it. And then it goes forward and strikes the primer of the cartridge. Also internally in Glocks, there's, I don't know what to call it exactly. It's a cylinder, and it goes up and down as you pull the trigger, okay? That cylinder blocks the firing pin unless you pull the trigger. So, I just want to paint a picture for you here. In order for this firearm to actually fire, you have to pull the trigger. You have to. Because the striker is not under spring tension until you pull the trigger. And then, even if it were under spring tension and it was released without pulling the trigger, there's this metal cylinder that stops the firing pin from striking the primer, which is the cause of the explosive reaction inside of the chamber. Now, your M17, and I don't know about the rest of the variants, but I'm sure your M17 and M18 operate exactly the same way. I think the M18 is just a little bit shorter, and I'm not sure of all the P320 variants, right? So there may be some double action variants out there for the P320. I don't know. I don't care, actually. What I'm talking about is this, right? So this is the P320 M17, the service pistol for the Army. Now, let me go ahead and clear this thing, okay? Right now, okay, inside, the striker is actually held by the sear, which means the striker is under spring tension. If this gun is jarred enough, it has the potential of the striker releasing. Now, I don't know what the chances of that happening are. I just want to make that clear. I don't know. I have no idea. Now, in mechanics, I know there's a plunger, just like the Glock. In this one, there's also one. There's also a plunger. So it makes me think that this firearm could not fire unless the trigger was pulled. But there's some damning videos out there. At least some very outrageous claims, and maybe they're true, maybe they're not. I don't know. The other thing you're going to see on the P320, and not the Glock, is an external safety. Because you actually don't need one on the Glock. There's no reason to have an external safety on the Glock when it's a double action, and the only reason why it's going to fire is when you pull the trigger. But there is an external safety on the SIG, probably because the Army was like, it has to have an external safety. The SIG has a safety, an external safety, which is placed very nicely where it's supposed to be, I think, because I can manipulate it very easily, unlike the 92 series Beretta. And the Glock doesn't have an external one, so whatever. Now, I imagine SIG won because, partly because there's an external safety on the SIG. Okay? That's a long, drawn-out explanation on why I think that is. Here's something else that's interesting, and I want to be clear that I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I was in Turkey in 2016, and I met General Dietrich at the time, Lieutenant General Dietrich. I asked him a bunch of tough questions. It was during the time the Trump going against Hillary Clinton. They were both trying to run for president. Trump eventually won. And it was during the tail end of the ISIS debacle. Now, I met General Dietrich there. I don't get to meet a whole lot of generals, and I definitely don't get to eat dinner with them and ask them questions, and especially tough questions at that time when it has to do with, the administration, the next administration, the ISIS, like, there's a bunch of things happening that were very difficult things, and I had questions on how are we going to operate, what are we going to do if this happens or this happens, etc. Okay? Very nice dinner. He seemed like a very, cordial man. Now, he is the advisor to the CEO of SIG, Ron Cohen. That seems awfully strange because the service pistol, it only became the service pistol in 2017. I don't know how long the trials went on with Glock and SIG and all the other things. I have no idea. And I don't know if General Dietrich retired had anything to do with deciding on what firearm was going to be the service pistol. I have no idea. I just find it strange. I find it very peculiar. So if you guys want to dig into that, go dig into it. Like, I don't know. I don't know. Now, I don't dislike SIG, and I don't dislike the P320, the M17 or the M18 or any variant thereof. They feel very nice. They feel nice. They feel good. They just, I don't know. It seems like a solid firearm to me. But I'm going to beat the shit out of this thing. I'm going to take a mallet to it. I'm going to drop it on purpose. I'm going to throw it across the range. I'm going to do a bunch of stuff with this to see if I can get it fire without pulling the trigger. Now, how am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to create blanks. So I'm going to grab a 9mm casing. I'm going to put a live primer in it, and then I'm going to crimp the front end or the mouth, right? I'm going to neck it down just so when I put it into the chamber, it doesn't eat my chamber up, right? So the brass, so it doesn't like dig into the metal or whatever. And then I'm going to load it with a blank. And then I'm just going to run around, jump, do jumping jacks, whatever, flips, kicks, whatever the case may be. I'm just going to do a bunch of stuff to see if I can get this thing to fire without pulling the trigger. And if I can, that's an issue. That's a problem. That's a very big problem. Now, I don't know if I will be able to. There are channels out there that have tried to get it to fire, at least P320 variants, to get them to fire without pulling the trigger, and they couldn't do it. I know there's like some kind of angle that it fires arbitrarily. I don't know. I don't know. Like it's just a very strange thing, and we're gonna see if we can make it happen. I'm also going to use this during the tactical games. Well, if it discharges without me pulling the trigger, well during training, well, I probably won't use it ever again. But I'm very curious to see what's happening here. Now, there are claims that it has happened after 1, 2, 3,000 rounds, 7,000 rounds, something like that. So this being a brand new pistol, I probably won't be able to do it. So maybe I need to go shoot a couple thousand rounds first. That's a good idea. I'll probably go do that. I'll probably shoot a couple rounds first, a couple thousand rounds first, and then try to bust it up. Try to see what happens. Anyway, that's the video I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, like, subscribe, do all the things you're supposed to do. And listen, if you don't do those things and you're watching this video, well, I just kind of need your support, okay? We are about 2,500 strong right now of subscribers. I would like to get some more. I am very close to being monetized. I don't know if YouTube will monetize me because all my stuff is about guns, but if they would, that'd be nice. That'd be pretty cool, right? And if you think it's worthy, if you think these videos are worthy enough, like, just go ahead and subscribe. Hit that subscribe, notification, all the things that you're supposed to do for the YouTubes when you support us YouTubers, or gun tubers in this case. So, tack out.